Well, Ms. Haugen, thank you very much for accepting this interview with us.
My pleasure.
Could you just, for the people who don't know you, summarize very quickly who are you and a little bit of your background?
My name is Frances Haugen. I am an algorithmic product manager. So products are things like Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. But within each of those products are sub-products. So it might be the chat box on Messenger, like where you enter your message. That is a product. So the kinds of products that I have specialized in are algorithms. So those are the processes that pick out what content you see in your newsfeed, on the home feed at Pinterest, search results at Google. I've worked at all those companies, and so I've been exposed to a variety of kinds of algorithms doing a variety of consumer tasks. And that brought me to Facebook, working on civic misinformation.
How long have you been working for Facebook?
I worked for Facebook for close to 2 years.
Okay, and during these 2 years, have you been seeing or witnessing things that struck you or shocked you and started the process that you're in now?
I saw a pattern of both organizational choices, like there were problems with how the organization was structured that led to bad choices, bad incentives. But I also saw that Facebook had many non-content-based solutions. So this is not about picking good ideas or good people or bad ideas and bad people. These are things about how do we change the dynamics of how the product works such that it's just safer by default. And Facebook knows these things and doesn't do them because each would cost little slivers of profit.
From what you've been saying among the last weeks, it seems that even inside Facebook, people have a very blurry vision of how things work. Can you explain to us what people inside Facebook know of Facebook?
One of the challenges for Facebook is that it has been trying to solve problems alone, when in reality, the only way we will be safe is if we solve problems together. So right now, because Facebook hides behind a wall, the only people who can identify problems or solve problems are people inside of the company. The reality is these systems are incredibly complicated, and over again, changes that seemed like they'd be innocuous were found out later to be quite toxic. And so I believe that we need to have substantially more transparency. It could even be via privacy-safe aggregate data, but we need to have more transparency so that we can build a community, an ecosystem of people who both dig into these problems, but also an ecosystem of people who communicate about these problems, people like me, so that more people can make informed choices when they use social media.
Is one of the problems that we are facing towards tech giants, and among them Facebook, the lack of transparency that they bring to their own products, because it somehow impeaches us to make the good choices?
I think there's sometimes we get stuck in patterns of behavior. And I think at the beginning, so Google knows that people can download its search results and analyze them and write papers. People do this every day. And because of that, Facebook staffs engineers who work on search and also write blog posts explaining how search works. Or like Twitter knows that it gives out 1/10 of all the tweets. Anyone can look at 1/10 of all the public tweets on Twitter and analyze them. And people do. Facebook doesn't have anything like that. And I think what happened to them is they started out behind the wall. They started out, invisible to the world. And as they accumulated problems, it became harder and harder for them to ever go transparent because they had so much debt. They had dug themselves so deep. And my hope with these disclosures is it gives an opportunity to reset, right? Where now this is all out in the open. We can now have a public discussion on how do we solve it.
In order to have this public discussion, which I believe, like you, is more than necessary, we need to better understand how these machines work. Do you think that the politics, the people who are in charge somehow, are able to understand this and to help us make good choices and take good decisions?
I've been incredibly heartened by my visit through Europe because it's very clear that Europe, the UK, I think because they face worse harms from Facebook, right? Facebook has invested most of its safety in America and in English. I think because of that, the conversation here is much longer. For example, you've done tons of great work around misinformation. And because of that, I think lawmakers are much, much better informed because they've been working on it longer. And so I do have a lot of hope that the leaders that we have are going to be able to make good changes around transparency, especially now that we've started the conversation.
But how can we achieve this good conversation, I would say clever conversation, not saying that the other ones are dumb, but where people can make their own minds on what we are talking. Do you think there's a possibility to achieve this conversation? Because from my perspective, it seems very non-transparent and so very hard to achieve.
My intention is to begin building a youth movement, probably around college students, but then having college students help, say, high school students tackle these problems. Because I think for a long time we've felt powerless. Like we felt like there was nothing we could do to make these large platforms accountable. And the reality is we have lots of power, right? If we organize together, if we stand united, we can begin to get changes that we never thought possible before. And so my greatest hope for my disclosure is that people come out of it feeling like they have agency, like they have the ability to act, because Facebook has done a great job of telling us nothing can be done. But the reality is they know what can be done. It's just they've chosen not to do it.
Have you ever met Mark Zuckerberg?
I haven't, but I hope one day I do.
It means that you've been working 2 years in this company and you never met him.
It's a huge company. And I think he is quite insulated, right? You know, as Facebook likes to say, I have never been in a C-suite meeting. I'm a low-level employee. That's totally fine. But I'm not someone who likes attention. Like I don't throw birthday parties because I feel like too awkward. And part of why I am an algorithmic product manager is I'm very happy just looking at data. And so I've never had an opportunity to meet Mark, but I'm totally okay.
There's this kind of comparison that I usually make for my students when I try to explain to them the magnitude of the change that was brought to us by all of these platforms. Facebook didn't exist 15 years ago, and now it has more people on it than Christianity.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
And I would like to bring this reflection to you and see what you think about it. But I tend to believe that we go much more often on Facebook than we used to go to Mass.
We do.
And I
multiple times a day.
Yeah, and I believe that Facebook knows much more about us than the priest who used to take our confession. Do you agree with this statement? And what kind of reflection does it bring to you?
I have never thought about it in those terms before, but it is amazing. Like Facebook has 3 billion people. And I think part of what is so sad is that a platform that was designed and built for Ivy League college students has now metastasized because of its obsession with growth to penetrate so deep and far. I think the thing that scares me is we're about to enter another quantum leap forward. So there are satellites now that ring the Earth, that bring internet very soon. Things like, I think it's called Starlink from SpaceX. And I bet another 1 billion people are gonna come online in the next 3 years, right? And all those people are gonna use Facebook. And so we are moving into a territory where, when missionaries used to go and spread Christianity, and they do today, they go in very carefully. They learn the language of the community. They learn the needs of the community. They learn how to translate and connect with that community. And Facebook isn't doing any of those things. It's moving into the most fragile, diverse places in the world with a strategy that doesn't have any way of adapting to that many languages.
Move fast and break things?
Yes, they're definitely breaking things.
In the same idea, Facebook is a private company, and for that reason is allowed to take his own decision without caring about the others. But somehow, this platform has become some kind of a infrastructure of public debate.
Yep.
For that reason, should it be regulated?
So there's something known as network effects. So network effects are where every additional person that joins a system, the network grows in value. It used to be maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, there were still countries in the world where the dominant social network, the personal social network. So I like to talk about, there's broadcast social media, which is things like TikTok. On TikTok, creators just want to reach as many people as possible, which is why they cross-post from TikTok onto YouTube or TikTok on Instagram. They just want to reach the masses. In personal social media, I might post a picture of my baby because I want my friends to see it. If my friends don't move with me to the new platform, I won't post that picture of my baby. And so at this point, we are not going to dislodge Facebook. Those holdout countries, those few holdout countries, all of them are now dominated by Facebook. And so I think Facebook should be regulated like a public utility, because when we call someone on the phone, we don't ask, is it a Google phone number or an Apple phone number? We just call phone numbers. And similarly, that's what it is with Facebook.
Do you think that the spread of misinformation is something Facebook is really fighting against?
Sometimes, actually all companies make strategic choices. They say, our strategy for addressing a problem is this. We're going to go in that direction. Facebook is very committed to third-party fact-checking. They've invested a lot in facilitating journalism on these issues. But the problem is that that strategy does not extend to a linguistically diverse world. The French government has been asking over and over again for how many moderators are working in France, how many fact-checkers are working in France, and Facebook refuses to tell us. They refuse to say how much of that fact-checking budget is not in English, because overwhelmingly it's in English. And so I think Facebook thinks it's doing a good job with misinformation where they live. But I don't think they've taken appropriate responsibility for how diverse the world is and how we need non-language-based strategies, non-content-based strategies to extend to a linguistically diverse world.
One of the effects of this lack of scrutiny is the spread of misinformation and conspiracy theory. It seems from what I heard of your previous speeches that it was a very personal reason that changed your focus on the impact of social networks on individuals. Can you tell us a little bit about this friend of yours and what it changed in your life?
So I got very, very sick in 2014, like so sick. I'd gone from being able to bike 200 kilometers on a bike to being in a wheelchair in 2.5 years. And so in the process of my recovery, at some point I realized if I wanted to get my life together, I needed help, right? We solve problems together. We don't solve them alone. And so I hired a friend of my brother's. He was a young man. He was maybe 23. And he helped me. And he got more and more involved in my life. Like he would take me walking every day. Because I had to relearn to walk. It would take me, 4 long breaks to do 2 kilometers at the beginning, right? He made me go swimming. He taught me how to eat appropriately, like eat more protein because he was a bodybuilder. And so I feel I credit my recovery, like how fast I got my life back, to this person. And over the course of 6 months in 2016, he fell deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. Like the information he was reading on the internet. I don't think it was Facebook. I think it was like 4chan and like Reddit, but I don't know. I watched him slip away. I watched him have stranger and stranger beliefs. And when I tried to pull him back, he would say things like, do you even check your own citations? These are all mainstream media. And at that point, I knew that I had lost him. And I think it's hard to describe how painful a loss like that is. Like if you credit someone with like your life and you lose them that way, like it becomes very personal. And so a recruiter reached out to me in 2019 from Facebook and said, do you want to work at Facebook? Because they contact you all the time, like multiple times a year, they will contact you. And I said, the only thing I would do is civic misinformation. The only thing I would do is I want to work on the election. And they were like, oh, by the way, this job exists. And so I took that job. That's how I came to Facebook.
The risk you're taking now, the stakes are very high for you. And I think that coming against a company of the magnitude of Facebook takes an act of bravery. Were you aware of all of those kinds of risks before you came out?
I believe reasonable people, when put in a situation where if they took a risk for themselves, they could save a life. I think it's reasonable for an individual to say, I'm not taking on that burden. But I think if it was 10 lives or 100 lives or 1,000 lives, I think basically everyone would think at least harder before they made that choice. And I was put in a situation where I earnestly thought, and I still believe, that there are millions or tens of millions of lives on the line. And compared to that many people, like their lives matter as much as my life matters. Any risk that could happen to me is insignificant compared to that harm. And so I felt that I had no option other than to get more people involved to help solve problems together.
You said that when you entered Facebook, you entered with very good intentions. And more than that, with the certainty that you were able to do good and that there were good people inside Facebook. Do you still have this idea now?
I was amazed at the quality of people when I joined Facebook. Facebook does a very good job of trying to detect people who are good people, right? They're earnest, they're conscientious, they're smart. The problem with Facebook is not bad people. It is about an organizational structure where no one is responsible, where people are rewarded for growth and speed and are not rewarded for questioning or trying to prioritize safety. And so I believe even more in the people of Facebook now, and I believe they deserve more resources and more investment because the people who are trying to keep us safe have an almost impossible burden right now. And we need to stand with them in solidarity to make sure that there's enough people tackling these problems.
Do you think, looking back, that there was some kind of naivete?
In tech, there is a mindset, right, that individuals can change the world, right? You know, tech is one of the few places where a 23-year-old with a great idea can be a billionaire a year later, right? And I know that I'm very privileged that I've gotten to have a series of experiences that have really exposed me very deeply to algorithmic products. And, you know, I didn't come in with the intention of solving all of misinformation in a civic context, but I did come in with the intention to making progress. And I don't think I was naive. I didn't realize how little they were willing to invest. I thought the fact that they were willing to have that job meant that they would at least give me the minimum resources to do that job.
One of the things that you brought to the table is that finally no one inside the company really knows precisely how does the algorithm works. Yeah. So what does Facebook do to try and figure out how does this algorithm work?
I want to be real clear. Facebook tries really hard to understand how the algorithm works. And it's not just about the algorithm. It's about the product choices in concert with the algorithm. Like Facebook has come back and said, like ordering by time in your newsfeed, like giving up the algorithm, you won't like it. It's actually worse. But they're thinking about it in isolation, right? It's a question of, should we have million-person groups that we push you into? And should we prioritize and pick which groups to recommend to you based on their ability to provoke a reaction from you? Because, for example, in Germany, last year it came out that 65% of people who joined Nazi groups did it because Facebook recommended those groups to them. And so I think it's a thing of, we have lots and lots of ways to make the platform safer. You know, there's lots and lots of ways we can change how little dynamics work, all in concert. And I think there is a ability for progress. Facebook knows how to fix these things. It just doesn't have the will to.
Is it true that inside Facebook they create some kind of a fake profiles and to see how the algorithm is presenting these profiles with information?
So Nick Clegg, who's I think the head of communications for Facebook, I'm not sure exactly his role, he wrote a long blog post in March calling "It Takes Two to Tango." And so Facebook's official position is, you choose your friends, you choose your interests, don't blame us for what you see in your newsfeed. It takes two to tango. So Facebook has also done, though, an experiment that invalidates that premise. They've taken brand new accounts, so this is an account with no friends, no interests, and they follow some mainstream interests, like maybe center-left, center-right. And then they just click on whatever Facebook gives them, right? Maybe they click on the first 5 things, first 10 things every day for 2 weeks. They join whatever groups they're recommended. And if you're on the right, within days, you go to QAnon. Within weeks, you go to white genocide. If you're on the left, within weeks, you go to we should kill Republicans. And so is there two tangoing in the situation? No, this is just Facebook's algorithms. And when it comes to kids, it's really tragic because Facebook has done the same exercise on Instagram. They've taken a brand new account and they've searched for things like healthy recipes, like things that are innocuous. And then the same thing, just click on the content. follow the hashtags, and you go from healthy eating to anorexia very quickly.
That's exactly what I did in a project on 2019.
Oh, amazing.
I created some fake profiles with University of Sciences Po.
Okay.
And we tried to see how each of them had a political color.
Yeah.
And we tried to see what the machine was showing us.
Oh, amazing.
And at the conclusion of this, the head of Facebook in France said that it was my technique was a very bad one, and that I was lying to the public, and that my conclusions were fraudulent.
That's so funny.
And thanks to you, I learned that my technique was in fact Facebook's technique, because they did this in March 2019, exactly at the same moment that I was doing this myself. Do you think it's a good idea? Because I want to reproduce this kind of exercise during the presidential election next year in France.
It's a great technique because it isolates variables. So in science, we always try to run our experiments where there's just one thing changed. And in this case, you're isolating the factors that are showing you content, right? You didn't add friends. You didn't make very many choices. You're just seeing how does the algorithm amplify and push us towards rabbit holes. It also exhibits a thing, which is Facebook should have to disclose its research, partially because we can then make sure they are asking questions that are necessary for the public good. Because, what if they stop doing any research around teenagers now because they're scared? Like, we deserve the right to know. Like, maybe give them a year or 18 months of privacy. But when you make $45 billion a year in profit, if you don't solve a problem in 18 months, you chose not to solve that problem.
Is Facebook going to change if we don't push him?
No. Until the incentives change, Facebook will not change.
And that will be my last question. From your experience, from your very privileged knowledge of tech companies and inside Facebook, do you think that they pose some kind of a threat to democracy and modern society as we know it?
Unquestionably, Facebook as it stands today is a threat to democracy. I'll give you a really clear example. Ads on Facebook are priced by the same kind of algorithm that we see for picking out content in our newsfeed. So ads that elicit a reaction from us, a like, a comment, a reshare, are cheaper than ads that don't get those things. We have seen over and over again in Facebook's research, over again in psychology research going back 50 years, it is easier to provoke anger from someone or use anger to provoke a reaction than it is compassion and empathy. And as a result, angry, hateful ad campaigns, political ad campaigns, are 5 to 10 times cheaper than compassionate, kind campaigns. In a world where we subsidize hate like that, how can we have a democracy? Because we're giving hate like the home field advantage. And I think we need to do things like have flat rates for political ads. We should say, no, we know the algorithm is biased towards hate. You should not get a subsidy when you're hateful and cruel.
Do you have a personal message for the French public and the people who are on Facebook here?
I strongly believe that Facebook must be more transparent if it will ever be accountable. Because right now, Facebook's strategy assumes that it can tackle a few languages, invest in just a few, and be safe. And yet Facebook wants to be the internet for huge parts of the world. And the people of France know that there is more than an Anglophile world, right? People speak other languages. And they can be the voice for people who don't have a voice. People who maybe there's 3 million speakers in their language, 5 million people, because those people still matter. And so I hope the French people stand in solidarity with the linguistically diverse world and are leaders in pushing Facebook to embrace that linguistically diverse world.
Thank you very much, Ms. Haugen.
My pleasure.